What's up? I believe this is going to be the most valuable video on ecom, and when it comes to finding your product market fit situation, consistency, right? So getting that consistent, revenue in when you're just starting out or when you've already been going for a while and just can't make it work, and to absolutely just get out of this survivorship bias, right? So this is what most people think a physical product business, an ecom business is like, right? So like people think that there's basically only these top 0.1% of people that actually succeed, and they say, oh, if I can do it, anyone can, but there's actually, for every successful one, there's 1,000 people who don't make it, and 99% actually fail and don't make it. And this is partly the reality right now, because this is the truth, in my opinion, for that old approach of just spam testing products, throwing something on a wall, not learning from your tests, and not tracking every single metric to the deepest and fullest potential. I believe if you do that, and if you actually do iterate your stuff and your ads, and I'm going to explain exactly in this video how I'm going to do that, or how I usually do that. But yeah, this is going to be a super unedited video. I'm going to explain to you how you can get out of this, right? How you can actually end this and actually approach a way where a physical product, an actual physical product business, which you can treat it like a business, not just like just drop shipping, because I believe the term drop shipping has a terrible reputation. And to be fair, a lot of YouTubers have not really contributed to the positive reputation of drop shipping, because you have to understand one thing, right? Most businesses on service based, because it's easier to start, you need less money to start a service business. But the cool thing about e-commerce businesses is that they have a intrinsic value, like the physical products that you sell have value itself, okay? If no one knows you in a service-based business, right? If you have no credibility, no proof, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be harder in the beginning, because a actual real physical product business has value. Like service is just thin air, okay? So that's the cool thing about a physical product business, about e-commerce in general. And so let's actually get into how you can get this product market fit in the first place. There's just basically 3 sections in this business model that you can absolutely just maximize in the beginning to get to honestly a couple $1,000s a day consistently. And the point is consistency. It's not hard to make a 1K day once, or a 2K day once, or a 10K day once. It's actually hard, and believe me there, guys, it's completely different to have one 1K day, to have one 30K month, completely different, and one 365K year, completely different, okay? So consistency is where the value is at. It's actually, what's more impressive than getting your first 1K day? Getting your second 100K profit year in a row, okay? That is a lot more impressive in every business model, especially e-commerce, okay? So keep this in mind, and I believe to get to a certain point, and to especially consistency, you need these 3 things. You need a really good offer, you need a really good hook which people resonate with, or multiple really good hooks that people resonate with, and you need a really good backend and cash flow, because cash is king. And so I'm going to explain to you guys for every single one of these things how I do it, and how you can even scale after that, when you already have this product market fit situation. All right, so important about the offer, right? Whoever can spend the most money on a customer, it doesn't matter what ad platform you work on, okay? This is really powerful, and this is the key point in paid ads. If you're doing paid ads, if you get your customers mainly or partly through paid ads, whoever can spend the most money on a customer is always going to win. And so you should always be the most expensive competitor, not the cheapest one, because the old approach of building an offer, to be fair, is just basically going ahead and just taking the competitor price, going $5 cheaper, and just calling it a day, right? But the point is, like, if you get sales like that, it's not a very good position to be in as a business, because if someone comes into the market and sells it for $5 cheaper, then you just literally make no money. Like, you get all your other customers are lost. And so that's the first thing where it differentiates from a service-based business, because a service doesn't cost as much money as an e-com, as a physical business, right? If you have a physical product business like this here, you have to have a good margin, right? So you can't go cheaper always until you're at $0, right? So this is where you can actually feel it, right? Also, in a service-based business, you shouldn't really go cheaper than your competitors, but especially in e-com, you can't. You physically, literally can't go down, do that, okay? So how you can actually ramp up your price, and obviously you can't just go ahead and like a maniac and just, dump up your price all the time every single day. So you can actually split test it. You can A/B test your offer, having 2 offers at the same time, trying to make it more valuable, trying to increase the value price discrepancy and increase the price as you do that, okay? And to be fair with you, if your value is still 10 times what the price is, you can still get away with being the most expensive competitor, because you provide the most value. And this is a universal business rule, so remember this one forever, right? Second thing is solve an outcome instead of selling a product, right? So Sell an all-in-one solution for a problem, right? Instead of just basically selling a random product on your page. Because if you ever take a look at all these awareness stages, so you have unaware people, you have problem aware people, you have solution aware people, you have product aware people, and you have most aware people. In every market, for every product, for every brand, there's people in every one. Of course, there's sometimes more in some of these than in others. However, if you want to scale, if you want to make money, right, you should position yourself in the more problem-aware, unaware type of thing, or that's where you should, that's where your goal should be, because most people will be there always, right? So if you sell a product, you speak to most aware, product-aware people, right? Because they're on that level, people already know that they want the product. You're not actually marketing. You're not actually changing beliefs. You're just convincing people that already know that they want to buy that your offer is the best, or that you're the best competitor. It's not a very hard job to do. What is actually hard is getting an unaware person, a super unaware person has no clue that they even have a problem, right, to actually buy from you. And that might be a longer sales cycle. That might be, over multiple touch points. That might be a little bit more difficult. However, it's a lot more worth it, because that's where the money is at. That's where most of the customers are at. And so it starts at the offer, because your offer is kind of more or less determining your positioning as your brand. And so you should always position yourself to solve a problem instead of selling a product, right? This is very important, but a lot of people don't do this, honestly. And if you have to bundle up your products with other ones, other high perceived value products, do it by any means. Do it. It's amazing. It's awesome that you have the freedom, or that you have the advantage of getting away with charging maybe 3 digits for upfront for your offer, right, without shipping. Completely fine, totally fine, right? And so you have to think about, what do I add in inside of an offer to make it as valuable as possible, right? Communities, like every digital product that you can imagine, communities, courses, ebooks, right? How can you add in stuff which doesn't cost you a lot of money to fulfill into your main offer, even if it costs you a lot of money? But the point is, it should solve a problem. It should sell that outcome, not the actual product itself, because people don't care about that. Like, it just seems like, it just screams. If you see just a normal dropshipping store, which doesn't talk about the outcome, it just sells the product, there's just the price on it with a discount. It's like, it screams, oh, buy my stuff, please. I don't, it's like, you can do, it's so easy to do. Like, setting up a split test for 2 different offers is not physically hard, doesn't take a lot of time, and also doesn't take a lot of brain to do that, right? It's very simple, very easy. And if you just launch the same creatives on a really good offer versus a terrible one, you will immediately see the difference. Even if the creatives are the exact same, if the ad account, the pixel, everything's the same, you will see a massive difference. I believe the offer is one of the first thing that comes to the testing order. And so immediately, when it comes to the highest leverage thing on your store, there's nothing which is higher leverage than split testing your offers. Okay, so that's where you should start. All right. Now, the positioning of your offer is also really important, because you can't just show it to just anyone and expect them to buy. You obviously have to solve a problem for a very specific niche down customer. You should always have your avatar in front of you at all times. However, a pretty cool way you can do this without just being drowned by the CPMs is just selling it to a different channel or a different country, right? So I like to do the different country, because it's very simple, right? If you just take stuff that works in the US, for example, to Europe, to some EU countries, it's probably the easiest thing you can, the easiest approach in ecom. There's a ton of other ones that are also not too hard, but different channel is a pretty cool one too, right? I worked with someone who just basically failed with his same product on Facebook, and then we just took it to Google. He just launched some cold, not even like a PMAX or something. It was just a search campaign, and he made immediately got to 2K days very quickly, right? And if you know something about Google Ads, it's very, very consistent. And so this should give you an idea of, you don't have to follow all the advice that everyone on YouTube is giving. Like, when everyone tells you to Facebook, Calidata, take stuff from TikTok Shop to Facebook ads, that stuff was cool a year ago, right? It's like, you have to adapt, right? I'm personally a big believer that the fundamentals will never change. And so you have to apply the fundamentals. One of the fundamentals is actually to, your positioning, right? And so you can make Google ads work. You can 100% make it work. And there's brands that only work on Google. There's native ads, right? The weather.com type of ads, right? You can do anything you want. There's no rules. Don't let any YouTuber, any guru tell you otherwise, all right? And so when it comes to the value of your offer, offer, right? How you can actually ramp it up like crazy, or in fact, how you can become the most expensive competitor in a market. It's just basically how how big the gap is between the value and the price. The value is what people get or what people feel like they get, and the price is what they pay. Obviously, if they're getting more than what they pay for, there's this gap between the price and the value, right? The price and the value, and that makes or breaks your entire success in ecom, right? You have to basically increase that gap massively between price and value, and that's how you make money. That's how you sell your offer. That's how you become the most, basically the most expensive competitor. Because once again, if you provide the most value, you can get away with charging the most amount of money, right? If you don't, then of course not. Okay, so this should give you an idea of kind of how to approach the business in general. And even to be fair, if you are the cheapest competitor and you still don't make money, even though you ripped all the ads and you all that kind of stuff, that probably means you're providing the least value. You're not providing no value at all. You're probably selling just a product, not an outcome, and that's your fault. Honestly, it's not very hard to do, like I said. Second thing here is guarantees, scarcity, urgency, right? So these are ways to enhance offers. I like the guarantees part the most, because guarantees is something which people just love, right? Everyone resonates with a guarantee. Whatever type of guarantee you have, honestly, think of a creative name to properly, call it. However, guarantees are probably the most powerful way to just enhance, to add value to an offer. Scarcity, urgency just basically push the decision and shorten the sales cycle, which is a big part of the offer overall. So the sales cycle means how long does it take from the first touch point on average until someone converts, right? So you should always in ecom have very short sales cycles because you are, especially as a dropshipper, you're going to depend on first-time customers, on impulse purchases, and people are going to not, if people think about it, then they're likely not going to buy, right? So you have to get them very quickly, and scarcity and urgency are very good ways to enhance that as well, right? So if you do all these things, the offer part is pretty much checked off, right? Obviously, this comes down to a lot of testing, and probably the first offer, even after watching this video, the first couple offers that you make after this are not going to be good, right? And all you got to do is just keep testing, keep split testing, A/B testing, and keep working and improving on it. And even if the 10th offer fails after it, got to follow the process, even if you don't see the results. And that's why, once again, everyone fails at business, because they give up way too early and way too quickly without even figuring it out at all. Okay. And obviously, the more time you spend into it, the longer you can't give up. You're too deep into this. You can't give up anymore, because it would have been just wasted time otherwise. Okay. So when it comes to the hook part of everything, if you've been following my channel, I like to do something which is called the hook test, right? And so what I do is I open up a document and I write down a bunch of different hooks that I can come up with, put them on blank white image ads. So I just do like a white background, just text on it, and just test them, right? I just test them all and just see which ones have the highest CTR. Still optimized for purchase traffic. So conversion goal is purchase. However, you don't actually look for purchases once the ads are running. What you look for, in fact, are CTRs, right? So you just turn them off after a couple of hours of spend each, and you just see which ones have the highest CTRs and most clicks overall, right? So what you do after that is you do competitor hook research, and you can do this beforehand if you kind of don't get the ideas. But essentially, what you want to do is you don't want to just pioneer all the hooks that you test, right? Most of the times you're going to have some competitor on some ad platform in some country, and if they're doing well, then you could just take a lot of inspiration when it comes to launching your brand. There's no need to reinvent the wheel at all, right? Second thing is you have to add your unique mechanism. So you can't just rip all the hooks from other people, because once again, then you're just in the position of copying someone, getting the worse traffic than them, and that's why it doesn't work for you. If you add your own unique mechanism to it, you will get people that no one else gets, right? So this could be how your product works. This could be your positioning, whatever it is, right? What you niche down to. This could be everything that you want to make it to. This is your differentiating factor that's going to, at the end of the day, in the long run, if you keep sticking to your store and working in your store as a long-term brand, this is going to actually be the first thing that people resonate with, or the first thing that people think about when they think about your brand, right? And then what I would highly suggest you do as well is you write hooks when it comes to the hook test in every single awareness stage, because as you know, there's a bunch of different people in a bunch of different awareness stages, and so you have to just speak to them all. You have to see what people resonate with the most, because everything, this is really important about offers, about hooks, about everything in paid ads in general, right? And all of your funnel from the first touch point until the 10th repurchase with email marketing, everything has to be tested. You can't tell anything for sure. Like you can't be 100% sure of anything until you actually test it, and then until you actually find out, right? This is very important and very powerful. And if you ignore this, if you don't keep this in mind, then this is going to be probably one of the reasons why your stuff fails. So this is very serious. But overall, I feel like you should basically figure out exactly beforehand, do the research of where and which awareness stage most of your customers are in currently right now, and then basically turn them or write hooks for every one of them, but kind of focusing on the one which most of your customers are in. So if most of your customers are completely unaware and they have no clue that you even exist, then probably it makes sense to talk to those people. If most people are product aware because you're selling a pretty tech product, people already know about it, but you have a cool unique mechanism, then that's the stage that I would try to speak to. And this is a skill, right? So writing hooks, copywriting is just a skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's as simple as that, right? So you just have to do it more. Now when it comes to backend and cash flow, I believe it's really, really important, and this is skipped by a lot of people, but this is when it comes to the consistency of everything. This is what takes you from a 1K day to a 30K month, from a 30K month to a 365K year, right? This is what actually takes you to those numbers. Now, cash is king always, okay? So cash flow is what you should optimize for. It doesn't matter, like don't plan for a high LTV, especially when you're launching. Like you can't do all these things. You have to get a good cash flow going. Like cash is king. Every ecom brand, every firm in the planet Earth that has a lot of cash is going to be able to test more. It's going to be able to endure more hard phases, and so therefore win against the competition. And business is very competitive, right? Keep that in mind if you're just starting out. Now, don't plan for a high LTV, but what you should actually do is follow the quote, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, right? So when it comes to your lifetime value, I would actually prepare for the case of everyone just buying once, because as a dropshipper, that's always going to be the case anyways. If you're not particularly having like a 3PL, like a supplement white label firm or whatever, like Supplyful, who, for example, ships out the orders within a couple days with a pretty decent product quality, that's something else. But if you dropship them from China, you're probably not going to get a lot of repeat customers, especially if you don't have a consumable product, all that kind of stuff. So if you plan for a high LTV and that's why you say, I can be unprofitable, stop it. Okay, it's really stupid, especially ecom brands who use a lot of cash from investors to always say this, like, oh, LTV here, LTV that. It's bullshit. It's just a lie. It's just basically an excuse to get better at funnels and ads, right? So what you need as well is going to be payment processing backups. And so I specifically recommend a couple, making just accounts in all of these, right? So once you have a proper legal setup, you're going to actually get accepted to these payment processors. So besides having Shopify payments, which you should aim for, because they have Google Pay, Apple Pay, there's Molly, there's AirWallex, there's Stripe, there's checkout.com, and there's like a bunch of reoccurring revenue ones. There's, for example, there's Seal subscriptions, there's Recharge. There's a bunch of these that you gotta have accounts for, but in order to have accounts for these, you basically have to have a proper legal setup, and that's why you should speak to an accountant. I'm not an accountant, I'm just telling you my experience of everything, all right? You should always have a proper bank account structure too, so you should have a business bank account, you should have a tax bank account, especially if you live in Europe, right? And if you're selling to Europe, you need that, VAT, IOSS solutions, all that kind of stuff, really important. And you should never take out too much money out of your business bank account, right? This is obvious, but if you see anyone in Miami with a cool car, it doesn't mean that you have to do it as well once you start hitting your first good months, okay? You should always have a little bit aside, especially if there's some tax stuff that you did wrong. And when you're starting out, when you first start to make money, usually there's stuff that you forget to pay, and it's good if you have it in your bank account and haven't blown it on some trips or some cars or whatever, okay? Now you need ad account backups too. So what you'll need essentially is going to be just a couple proper setups with business managers. You need pixel sharing setups. You can have agency ad accounts, which is pretty powerful too. Just find out what the most long-term or best approach for you is, which is different for anyone. If you have cash flow and you can get away with paying payment processing, agency account top-up fees, for example, and pay monthly for your ad account structure, then I would highly suggest you do that. Now, if you have a solid long-term brand and you have a separate LLC for that brand in that brand name, then it might make a lot of sense to actually have your personal ad account or personal BM, and maybe have like 2 of those to share it and to have them verified by yourself to actually do this the proper way. Most of these are completely fine, completely totally cool, and you should always talk to some people in the space in order before you get scammed by any bad agency or by any bad BM supplier, right? And what you need as well is a good retargeting setup. So once you start making money, you need email marketing to get the abandoned checkouts, to get people to buy again, all that kind of stuff, obviously very broken down. And you need a Google brand search campaign retargeting, right? So this is the minimum Google setup that I would say anyone should have. Any e-com brand should have this. And this is essentially what this is just like when people click on your Facebook ad, right? So any push marketing channel, they click on your website and then they get to it and then they leave and then they Google you, and because they want to find out more, they don't trust you yet. Now, if you don't have proper SEO set up, which you probably won't do, and if you don't have this Google brand search campaign, then they won't find your brand anymore. And you literally lost a $20 cost per purchase customer, which you just paid for, right? Really important, okay? So after you have these things, it's going to be pretty easy for you to scale, because like obviously this is just the information. If you execute this properly, it's going to be pretty easy, but how you can scale is pretty much like the direct response approach from here, which is essentially just testing a bunch of different landing pages and making ads, rebranding your ads that they are kind of speaking to more unaware people. So already proven concepts, just make it more accessible for more unaware people, right? So you more unaware hooks along your ads, right? VSLs instead of just UGCs, hybrid VSL UGCs maybe. So adding in a bunch of disqualifiers into your ads to increase conversion, because when you scale, your conversion is going to dip, right? And then testing a bunch of different landing pages, right? So basically testing a pre-sales page, maybe some listicle, some VSL funnel, some advertorial funnel, and testing a bunch of different checkout pages, right? Having a bunch of different upsells here and there, and stuff like that is actually very important in the long run when it comes to scaling, because once again, and I'm going to really double down on this, the person who can spend the most money on a customer always wins in paid ads. Okay, so if you guys want me to make a in-depth video about these 2 topics, in the long run, just like this one, go ahead and write it to me in the comments. But I want to say thank you for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention. All right, and thank you so much for watching this video. And see you next time. I wish you a beautiful day.